Hi, how are you? This is Daniel Riojas. I work for Altos Hornos de Mexico. I have been there for 27 years. And Altos Hornos is located in the northeast of Mexico, in the city of Monclova, in the state of Coahuila, near the border to the US. We are mainly related to the domestic market, and we have a capacity of 5.5 million of liquid steel metric tons.
Good morning, everybody. Carlos Alanis. I'm the CEO of Pisacero. We are a cold rolling mill for precision strip based in the city of Monterrey, Mexico.
Good morning, everyone. First, I would like to mention that we are facing a very hard time as human beings, but I believe we're going to adapt ourselves and leave this situation behind very soon.
I would like to continue. Of course, there is no doubt that the coronavirus crisis is generating a huge impact in the steel industry, but I want to dimension that impact related to the automotive industry itself.
As Jerónimo said, we need to take the lesson learned of this situation. And the positive points is we have been talking my colleagues before to start this webinar is, for example, develop new opportunities and develop a new work culture. That is the positive thing that we could take of this situation or pandemic.
Finance, banks. Miguel, Lucas, they described a bit about the currency depreciation. I love that part of discussion. What are the banks doing? Are they, like down in Mexico, are they tightening or loosening credits? Any thoughts from any of you? Or let me address to Lucas first.
First week of the crisis, some of the banks are still offering credit lines and some opportunities to the market. Passing like 1 week, 2 weeks, it changed completely, and Mexico starts to be seen as risky again. We have the grade of investment is still in Mexico, but it has a negative tendency. It's something to talk more. At this moment, Mexico is seen as a risky place to investment in the credit lines.
We need to be very careful with that because that could be risky in the long term of the economy as an individual, as a person, and as a company too.
I see is that yes, banks are making some giving some aids to some small companies and to obviously to people in a personal way, but I think that they're going to be forced to help out a little more with working capital and things like that, because if this doesn't happen and everybody stops for 3 or 4 months or whatever it takes, companies are going to run out of cash and they're going to stop making payments. So in a way, I think this cash influx is going to help out these companies to survive and weather the crisis. And in the end, it's beneficial for everybody.
Financial institutions in general are, in my opinion, developing very good plans in order to support the industry. Again, still missing action from the government. That is key. Financial institutions alone are not going to be enough. If those companies don't receive any more financing of the taxation that they will need to pay, if they don't receive, because let's remember that those companies represent more than 50% of the income of the government. It means that a lot of money is going from those companies to the government. If that money, the government still is requesting that money from companies, not giving any kind of support in that sense, they are going to suffer. The action from the government is needed and is needed urgently.
Decrease in demand in automotive this year. where do you see any growth for carbon steel? Is there a government initiative to spend on infrastructure projects?
Projects of the government about the airport and the Tren Maya and the Dos Bocas refinery. Those are the projects that mainly projects that the government is working at this moment that we can talk about. That's for the carbon steel goes to the construction market. Also, we know that they are working some in the freeways in the south and the Istmo area, and those are the that we can say that the carbon steel could address and for the producer or for us the mills that we can provide them and focuses in those kind of projects. So, since the last year, as Lucas explained, is not only this wave is it started with the previous waves in the market, in the construction, and if that's address for the carbon steel.
Assessing the impact of decreased steel making capacity and what this could mean for the economy as a whole in Mexico.
And I think that the problem is that when this crisis is over or it starts to slow down, there's going to be a huge need for materials, and there won't be enough availability of this. So this is something that I mean, it looks in a certain way promising, but then you realize that there's not going to be much availability of this. So everybody is slowing down. Everybody has to shut down machinery, equipment, mills, furnaces, and to get back on track it's difficult. But I see a shift also into before this crisis started at the beginning of this year. We were hearing from a lot of customers who were bringing their stamping presses and equipment from China primarily, but they wanted to be local. So some of them stopped working even before the government shut down because they didn't have components coming in from China.
The economic slowdown is happening everywhere around the world except China. It seems that China is ahead of everyone and people are going back to their offices and malls. Question mark, not too sure. The leading manufacturers are ramping up while the West is struggling very hard with coronavirus, COVID-19. How do you think this will affect the steel industry in Mexico and North America in short term? And would this be a situation where China will overproduce or probably dumping and lower price of steel even more? That's an interesting question, actually.
We need to remember that in the case of steel as production of hot roll, cold roll, and heavy long products, we have some dumping rates against China. So in Mexico, and so are in US and Canada. I think that is true. There is going to be a very aggressive. They are going to be very aggressive, but they are going to try to get this market not as steel as a raw material, more as a finished or processed products.
It's a huge question. Talking about China would provide us like 2 hours more. It's the biggest producer of steel in the world. But I want to focus in here.
Let's do it 3 hours.
Yeah, because it's impossible.
Yep.
Okay. I don't believe they're growing this year. Probably they're going to decrease their economy. The last time we see China growing 6% in their GDP, it was not growing in the sales of cars. It's not growing in the sale of steel. And I don't believe a country can grow 6% without selling more cars or selling more steel.
To put this new production all over around the world, but they are going to find maybe at the beginning some challenges in some countries, because in some other countries at this time is that they are not working, they are in different phases. So the real effect of this could be by the third quarter of this year.
Positive view on that. Of course, dumping is something that you always have to monitor. But at this moment, if China wants to sell steel, the consumption sector here in Mexico and the US are stopped, and they have at least a uncertainty in the short term. So I am hesitant that if they are going to be buying, even though prices could be down, etc., etc. And also, on my view and our contact to customer is slightly different, the view, in the sense that they are starting to give value of how important it is to have in some key materials local source and regional source.
It is true. There is. We are not working the 100% of the capacity. We are working at this moment around 60% of that.
We cannot stop the supply of materials to the medical equipment manufacturers.
The production of oxygen in Mexico, 60% depends on the steel consumption.
The part that is missing here is how the government and the financials it is going to help the company for the restart and to recover.
Industry entities are working very hard to reactivate this as soon as possible. Steel industry must reactivate right away.